When you search for a piece of information online, you likely end up on the same clean, text-heavy interface. It is the default, static-looking surface of the modern internet. Over 7 million articles in English alone, presented with a consistency that makes it feel like it was always there. This layer is integrated into our digital lives with almost total silence. It powers the quick answer snippets in your search results and provides the background data that allows algorithms to verify breaking news in real time. We trust this interface because it feels authoritative, but that authority is a byproduct of a paradox, a massive, glowing network of thousands of conflicting opinions that eventually collapses into a single, simple search bar. This seemingly simple surface hides a deeply complex infrastructure. It is a system that is continuously churning, where the world's shared memory is being built, challenged, and rebuilt every second by anyone with a browser. In the year 2000, knowledge was a product you bought in a box. Encyclopedias like Microsoft Encarta were proprietary, closed systems where a small group of experts decided what was true and then locked that truth behind a retail price tag. An early project called Nupedia tried to change this by moving the encyclopedia online for free, but it kept the traditional model of peer review, where every single sentence had to pass through a rigid, gated 7-step process. This created a massive editorial bottleneck. Despite having thousands of volunteers ready to help, the project was so slow that it only managed to publish 12 articles in its entire first year. To solve this, the founders looked to the Wiki, a concept pioneered by Ward Cunningham. He named his collaborative website after the WikiWiki shuttle buses at the Honolulu airport, using the Hawaiian word for quick. In 2001, Jimmy Wales and Larry Sanger launched Wikipedia. It was initially just a side experiment, a radical, decentralized feeder project where anyone could edit a page. The idea was that volunteers would draft content quickly here, and the experts at Nupedia would polish it later. By abandoning centralized authority for open editing, they triggered a wave of explosive growth that quickly killed the original project. But this openness invited an immediate existential threat. The risk that a site anyone can edit would inevitably dissolve into a mess of vandalism and chaos. When you remove the gatekeepers, you immediately get an influx of trolls, biased actors, and conflicting versions of the truth. Without a structure to manage that noise, an open encyclopedia would collapse in its first month. To stabilize the project, the community built 3 load-bearing pillars. First, neutral point of view, representing all viewpoints fairly. Second, no original research. The site mirrors existing knowledge. Third, verifiability, requiring every claim to be traceable to a published source. These rules shift the definition of truth on the platform. On Wikipedia, something is true not because a genius said so, but because a verifiable consensus of external sources confirms it. This system relies on productive friction. Often, the most accurate articles aren't written by friends, but by highly polarized editors who clash over controversial political or historical topics. In these edit wars, opposing sides weaponize the core rules against each other. Each side tries to strip away rival bias by demanding more citations and neutral phrasing. This constant friction improves the article, shaving away bias until a neutral core remains. Out of 52 million accounts, only about 40,000 users actively enforce these pillars. This tiny volunteer army has a clear demographic skew, dominated by Western male editors, creating systemic coverage blind spots for the Global South and marginalized groups. Wikipedia's reliability doesn't come from individual perfection. It relies on a rigid system of rules designed to harness the friction of a flawed, homogeneous volunteer force and turn their arguments into a functional consensus. The platform has evolved into the Internet's primary baseline utility. It functions as the invisible, load-bearing infrastructure that powers modern search and inquiry. Today, search engines and social media platforms scrape Wikipedia's structured data to answer your questions directly on their own pages. It has become the standard used by tech giants to establish credibility and fight misinformation across the web. But that same data is now being absorbed by artificial intelligence and large language models. This creates a new existential threat for the ecosystem. These AI models scrape the encyclopedia's collective knowledge to provide answers in private chats, which means users don't need to visit the site. This threatens to starve the community of the new readers and donors that the volunteer base requires to survive. Ironically, the original rules, verifiability, and the ban on original research are now the primary defense against AI. In a web increasingly filled with automated hallucinations, a system that demands a traceable, human-published source for every claim becomes more valuable. Wikipedia remains a volatile and imperfect database, but it is the only project of its scale to organize the world's information through structured conflict. It is a testament to how a rigid set of rules can turn the friction of a million different perspectives into a working record of our history.